The company paid someone to make the ransom smaller,
He made it bigger.
and they never knew he was the one who set the number in the first place.
The negotiator was on the other side of the table the whole time. The negotiator's whole job is information asymmetry. You know things the attacker doesn't, and you use that gap to push the number down. The interesting question is how long that gap stayed hidden. He wasn't just passing information once. Every new client was another insurance policy, another ceiling, another edge handed across.
The gang would get a demand in, the negotiator gets called, and before he's even picked up the phone to start talking them down, the ceiling is already gone. They know the insurance policy. They know the limit.
Which means every conversation he had was theater. He's performing the negotiation, buying down the number a little, making the client feel like they got somewhere, while the gang already extracted the maximum they were going to get.
And ransomware insurance is the specific thing that made this so profitable. A lot of these policies have caps in the range of $1 to $5 million. The gang doesn't need to guess whether the victim can pay. They just ask their inside man.
Cyber insurance exists because ransomware got so systematic that companies needed a financial backstop. You pay premiums, you get covered if you're hit. But the payout limits are documented, they're in a policy. And if someone on your response team has seen that policy, the attacker has seen that policy.
So the financial backstop became the blueprint. The gang doesn't need to guess at the ceiling. The policy tells them.
The ransomware response industry built up fast. After the Colonial Pipeline attack in 2021, which forced a shutdown of the pipeline supplying roughly 45% of the East Coast's fuel for about 6 days, every serious company realized they needed an incident response plan and someone to execute it. Negotiators, forensic firms, legal specialists. A whole ecosystem in maybe 3 years.
And ecosystems that build fast don't build vetting infrastructure fast. You hire the person who's been in the room before. You hire them because they know how these gangs operate. The knowledge that makes them useful is the same knowledge that makes them dangerous.
There's no licensing board for ransomware negotiators, no bar exam, no fiduciary standard. A crisis hits at 2 in the morning and you call whoever your insurer recommends.
And the insurer recommends whoever closed cases quickly. Closed cases look the same whether or not someone was skimming.
There's an argument that the structure almost invited it. The incentive for a negotiator is a resolved case. The incentive for a gang is maximum payment. If the negotiator is on both sides, both incentives point the same direction. Close it fast, close it high.
And neither party has any reason to flag the other. The company thinks they got a discount, the gang got what they wanted, everyone moves on.
The FBI has guidance on ransomware response, but it's not binding. CISA puts out advisories. Nobody audits the people you call when it's actually happening.
So the question isn't just how this one guy got away with it for as long as he did. It's whether the industry can build any accountability before the next one does.
And the people finding the holes are moving faster now.
A lot faster.
There's a specific nightmare that security researchers have had for a long time. Somewhere in the code running power grids, hospital networks, financial systems, there are flaws that nobody found. Not because nobody looked, but because there's just too much code, decades of it, written by people who are retired or dead in languages that most developers don't use anymore.
And AI can read all of it, fast. The UK's National Cyber Security Centre put out a warning about exactly this. A patch is a software update that fixes a security flaw, and when one gets released, it's essentially a public announcement that the flaw exists. Attackers can read patch notes the same as anyone else. They're calling the coming problem a patch wave. AI is about to surface a huge number of vulnerabilities at once, bugs that have been sitting quietly in old software for years, suddenly visible.
And the dangerous moment is that window between the patch going out and organizations actually installing it. That's already where most breaches happen.
That window is already where most breaches happen, and the warning is that if AI finds hundreds of flaws at the same time across critical systems, you get hundreds of those windows opening simultaneously.
IT teams that can barely keep up now.
Right. The patching process isn't just clicking update. You have to test it, make sure it doesn't break something else, roll it out across sometimes thousands of machines. That takes time, and if the volume of patches spikes dramatically, the math stops working.
What's strange is that the same AI doing the finding could theoretically help with the fixing. Same tool, both sides of the race.
Which means the question isn't really whether AI changes this, it's who gets there first.
She had 9,000 Instagram followers, posted matcha runs, pool days, normal life stuff. Someone took those photos, fed them into an AI image tool, and built a non-consensual account that looked exactly like her. Same tattoos, same face.
Not a rough approximation, exact.
And she had no idea it existed until someone told her. She's now part of a lawsuit against the men who built these accounts. Plural, this wasn't one person and it wasn't one woman.
The mechanics of it are pretty straightforward at this point. You scrape someone's public photos, scraping meaning you use automated software to pull and save them in bulk faster than any human could. You run them through a model trained to generate new images in that person's likeness, and you get an account that looks like a real person who chose to be there.
Chose is the word doing a lot of work. These women didn't consent to any of it. Their public posts, the kind anyone shares, became the raw material.
And the question the lawsuit is really forcing is who's on the hook? The guy who built the account, obviously, but also maybe the platform hosting the tool that made it easy, maybe the platform where the photos were scraped from.
Right now, there's no clean answer to that. Section 230, the law that generally shields internet platforms from liability for what users do, was written in 1996. AI image generation didn't exist.
So the law is being asked to handle something it was never designed for by people who are genuinely harmed, using tools that get cheaper and easier every few months.
The woman with 9,000 followers wasn't a celebrity. She wasn't a public figure in any meaningful sense. She was just someone who posted photos of her life.
Which raises the question nobody has a clean answer to yet. If the threshold is just being visible online, what does consent even mean for a public photo going forward? Two people were getting paid to show up after ransomware attacks and clean up the mess. Incident responders, the ones companies call in a panic when their systems are locked. And the whole time, those two were also the ones doing the locking. Same ransomware strain they were hired to defend against. Hospitals, pharmacies, a drone manufacturer. 4 years in prison when it came apart. These were people with deep access, deep trust, and deep knowledge of exactly how the attacks worked because they were running them. The cybersecurity industry has always assumed the defender and the attacker are different people.
Visa processed $7 billion in transactions last year through stablecoins. Stablecoins being a type of digital currency pegged to the dollar, designed to move like crypto but without the price swings. $7 billion, and almost nobody noticed because it doesn't look like crypto at the checkout. It's happening in the settlement layer, the back-end infrastructure, where banks and payment networks reconcile what's owed to whom. Visa just expanded that pilot to 9 different blockchains and grew the whole program 50% in a single quarter. No announcement, no fanfare. The interesting thing about infrastructure is that it tends to be in place long before anyone realizes it's running. By the time crypto shows up at the register, it may have been quietly settling your grocery bill for years.
A reporter built an AI voice clone of herself and sent it to conduct real interviews on her behalf for an actual story about AI in journalism. Sources picked up the phone and talked to what they thought was her. Then it accidentally hung up on her editor mid-call, which is funny until you think about what it means. These aren't chatbots generating text anymore. AI agents are now making autonomous phone calls, navigating live conversations, and doing things in the world without a human in the loop. The hanging up was the glitch. The phone call itself was the part that should give you pause. Someone on the other end of that call had no idea who they were actually talking to.
NASA just flew 4 astronauts around the moon, the first time humans have gone that far from Earth in over 50 years. And now, the mission that was supposed to actually land on the surface has been redesigned entirely from a landing into a docking rehearsal, because the spacecraft that's supposed to bring astronauts down to the lunar surface, SpaceX's Starship, Blue Origin's Blue Moon, aren't ready yet. A lunar landing is now being discussed for 2028, but that depends on two private companies hitting marks that neither has hit before. NASA has the astronauts, they have the suits, they flew the orbit. Everything that comes next is waiting on hardware that doesn't exist yet.
That's the week.
A lot moved in 5 days.
It usually does.
We'll be back Monday. Things won't have slowed down.
They never do.
Before you go, tomorrow on Pulse Deep Dive, Knox drops the next act of how AI happened. If you've been following the series, this is the one worth clearing your Saturday morning for.
And Sunday, Pulse Origins continues with Act 2 of the Strait of Hormuz. I've heard it, worth your Sunday.
Have a good weekend.
See you Monday.
Singularity Pulse is for informational purposes only. Nothing here is financial, legal, or professional advice. Views expressed are our own.
I'm Knox. Every Saturday on Pulse Deep Dive, one story told in acts. This season, how AI happened, who really invented the internet, and going back to the moon 53 years later. New chapter every Saturday. Find it wherever you listen.
Origins is a different kind of show. Every Sunday, we investigate the forces that shape the modern world, the geography, the science, the commerce, the decisions made centuries ago that are still playing out today. Find it wherever you listen to this podcast.